Welcome to Season 9 of the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast. This is where we chat with experts in the field, patients who use these devices, physical therapists, and the vendors who make it all happen. Our goal? To share stories, tips, and insights that ultimately help our patients get the best possible outcomes. Tune in and join the conversation. We are thrilled you are here and hope it is the highlight of your day.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joris Peels, and this is another edition of the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast with Brent Wright. How you doing, Brent?
Hey, Joris. I'm doing well, man. We are rocking and rolling in full throes for AOPA, man. So
Okay.
We're going to have to get some times on your schedule because I think we're going to have some people kind of signing up, and hopefully you can make a few of those interviews.
Oh, that would be really awesome, dude. I think it's a really cool idea. I'm still a little bit kind of worried about the technical part of that, but I think it's a really wonderful idea anyway. And,
Hey,
I can't wait.
You just don't have faith in me, do you? You know?
No. I just think it's just a lot more complicated than what we're doing now. You know?
Actually, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I've been practicing with a couple of the Rode Go wireless 2 mics, and I'll be able to be on a separate track, and the guest will be on a separate track, and then we'll have you in on this platform here, and I think we're going to be good to go. And then we'll run a video off of a camera, but I don't think I actually am probably going to have less equipment there than I do right now.
Okay. All right. That sounds really, really exciting. So, do we have a sponsor for this episode?
Yeah. So Advanced 3D is a sponsor of this episode, and Advanced 3D it really wants to meet you wherever you are on your journey. So whether you're just looking at getting started on your additive manufacturing journey, whether you want to learn to scan, design, definitive sockets, test sockets, wherever you want to be, we want to help you out on that journey.
Okay, that sounds really cool, man. That sounds really, really nice. And how about Comb? Are they still sponsoring us?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so Comb is really cool, right? So Comb is a scanning product that you could use or your customers could use, and you could use just your iPhone or your phone to do it. And I don't know, it works. I tried it out. I've tested it. You've tested it as well. And I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, well, and I think they do a great job on having it scan wherever you are, resident on your phone. And I just really like that they are, I say, for clinicians, by clinicians, and I think that does make a big difference.
Totally. We really notice that when we interview people that there's a really big difference if someone is actually a practitioner and they take that knowledge and those needs and they transform it into a tool or a product. So yeah, I do think that's one of the reasons why Comb is such a good thing. So who's on the show today, Brent?
Yeah, well, we don't have a long-suffering guest like we did. We put Ben right through the last time, man. We went into the weeds with some of the printing stuff. But, I think that was very cool. But I'm really looking forward to having Diego Suarez on the podcast today. He is with Bionic, and pretty much anything that gets made, that goes from Bionic, he's probably touched in some way. And, we've had Tony and Sagar on very early on in the podcast. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from the kind of the technical side and hearing Diego's journey as he got into the field. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of it.
Super cool. So welcome to the show, Diego.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor.
Okay. Calm down. No.
This podcast is awesome.
Hey, so how did you get involved with OMP, Diego?
So I always wanted to study. Well, it's a whole little story there. I always wanted to be an engineer. Since my parents were engineers and my older brother was also studying engineering, but I wasn't sure in which specific field I wanted to be. Till my last part of my senior year of high school, when I tore my ACL. I was a lot into sports and competitive basketball at that time, and injuries are part of it, like or not. The very day that this happened, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my future. And well, that day I was in so much pain, obviously. But above all, I was very frustrated because college was approaching, and my hopes to play college basketball was uh, falling apart at that moment. But something unexpected happened. After my appointment with the doctor, I had my first contact with an amputee. Um, I was very bad. I was so sad that day when suddenly this person approached and lifted my spirit. Um, I'll never forget, with a big smile and confidence, he told me that difficult times are part of life. But at the end, it's things happen and it's upon us to get up, enjoy life, and see the positive, the positive side. And I was shocked that day. I was like, this guy is missing his whole leg and, living with such a positive attitude, positive energy. Then I knew I wanted to give back that positive fire feeling that I had at that moment to these people with physical difficulties or, an amputation. And yep. Um, but the problem is, well, I am from Mexico, so we didn't have. That's not a problem, but in Mexico, there's not a prosthetics and orthotics program there. So searching among my careers or like opportunities that I had, I found out like biomedical engineer could have been the closest thing to OMP. So I went ahead and apply. I got accepted. Uh, I really enjoy my bachelor's. The only problem is that I did not learn anything about prosthetics or orthotics at all until I did my thesis project because I really wanted it. So I did my thesis project in this regard, and yep, now here we are working for an awesome company, and little by little making my way through the prosthetic and orthotic field.
So wait, just a second. You said there's no degree for orthotics, prosthetics, nothing like that in Mexico. It's like
Now they just have one.
okay,
We have one. But I was already like in my eighth semester, so I was already finishing my semester. And even though right now it's not certified by ISPO or anything like that yet, or at least from what I know, probably they're fighting for a certification internationally. But at least for what I read about this program, they were like still in, you know, making their way through the program as well.
And do you think, as a biomechanical engineer, do you have a different approach? Do you think than prosthetists and orthotists? Do you think you have a really different way of looking at a problem?
I guess we have our advantages. You see a lot more on the I don't know, scientific way to approach things, and more. I think we lack on some uh you know patient care, or like relationship with patients in general, because all you get during your bachelor's or your degree is contact with machines in general. So that's something good, but at the same time, at least for this field, is not the best. You're not having any exposure to creating relationships and really speaking with other than your colleagues around. So I think that's the disadvantage, but it does have some advantages on the well, at least I went a lot through the digital side, designing side a little bit, and finite element analysis and all that thing that I feel like at some point can help, on the material science and all that stuff. I feel that that's our advantage, and there's good ways that can be, or good things that can be used there.
Okay, that's cool. And did you also then quite quickly find 3D printing then, because you got this digital workflow stuff found set up?
So yeah, um, I didn't want to go to a hospital after my college degree. As a resident, I try to avoid hospitals at all costs, and I apply to all the OMP clinics, all the mom and pops clinics around my city, even in different cities in Mexico. But I couldn't get a opportunity, so I ended up in a company that focus on reverse engineering, SolidWorks. They do a lot of SolidWorks courses, and 3D printing. And I started my journey there because I was like, well, I really like prosthetics and orthotics right now. I don't have any opportunity there, but I definitely will be able to lever a little bit from the designing side. And I mean, it worked.
And in your daily like working life, how important is 3D printing for you? Is it like every day, all the time, or is it something you use a lot? Or
So yeah, I'll say every day, every time. Here in Bionic, we use this beautiful high flow machines from Film Innovations all the time. Obviously, I didn't start it with all this. I started with the Ender 3, as most I've heard in this podcast, and then I went through some Prusa machines, and I was starting to do like my own, um, you know, first prints there in Mexico. But now I feel like it's a day to day thing. We print check sockets every single day, or sometimes we call them fill lamps. That is like a thinner check socket just to print the mold, and we save the time of shipping, and sometimes even the cost will be less than shipping the mold and all that. So I feel like we use a lot of traditional too here, but 3D printing is part of the whole process. Sometimes we also do some definitives now out of CPX or Chiron Max. Um, yeah, I think I get a little bit of 3D printing and a little bit of traditional all the time. So I still get dirty, but not as much as all just traditional.
okay, and what's your feeling about 3D printing? Is it just like it's just a technology, or it's the future of everything, or what's your feeling about like how applicable it is to our arena on site?
My feelings towards 3D printing are like, I don't know. I feel like everything is gonna move towards there. I enjoy it so much. I see so many advantages on the 3D printing side that, I mean, I'm not saying that traditional is not good, but there's a lot more steps involved. And whenever you have the proper equipment, the proper knowledge, and the proper personal to run a 3D printing lab, it can definitely take over of most of the traditional. So my feelings are great about 3D printing. I love 3D printing, and I mean, let's embrace the change little by little.
Okay, and talks a little bit about your workflow. So mostly you use filament innovations, so mostly FDM, kind of big, large, high flow, but also some desktop type machines and stuff. So what's your workflow? What kind of software do you use for the stuff you do?
So we use obviously some phone um, scanners to get well. Let's say first we work. I work here in the central fab, and we work for around 50 clinics from Bionic and couple externals. Um, so they send the digital data, and we start our prosthetic journey with Omega Willowood most of the times, because I feel like even though it takes away the colors, which I do appreciate colors in the scan, I feel like it's a pretty straightforward software, and here in Bionic is they've been using it for a long time, and once you get it, is is easy, very very powerful too to clean the mesh, and do clinical modifications. So we start the clinical modifications there, and then we move on to MeshMixer. Uh, I I've been using MeshMixer for, I don't know, 6 years probably.
Calm down, Joris.
Everyone uses
Calm down.
MeshMixer. MeshMixer is the best, dude. The
Yeah,
whole
like,
prosthetics
Oh
and
my
orthotics
goodness.
industry drives on
Listen.
MeshMixer. The digitization effort of the whole industry is MeshMixer, man. Okay, but
honestly,
yeah.
I mean, you can even do most of the modification of the clinical modifications there.
Mhm.
It's quite hard to get circumferential measurements from the molds there, but there's ways you can get it. It's just gonna take a lot more time. That's why we go to Omega, to because you have all those measurements there. But you can honestly do it all in MeshMixer if you know how to use it. Obviously, it's gonna take some more time. So we pretty much use MeshMixer just to design the shelf of the socket and connect it to the if it's a pin lock, to the pin lock dummy, or like the suspension systems there. But yeah, MeshMixer is great. I won't deny it. It's great. It's free. Um,
Mhm.
Yep.
Awesome. And what else? Any other software? Like, do you use
Oh,
CAD as well? Or not really, or
yeah, like we use Fusion 360 every now and then. We print all our cosmetic covers on the Desktop printers, and they are designed on a way. We just put two measurements: the greater calf circumference from the socket, and the height. And like, I decided it in a way where the shape, it will just adjust. So we use for that Desktop, artillery printers most of the time, or Neptune illegal printers for those big covers. But for sockets, obviously we use this the Filament Innovations, and we use most of the time Simplify 3D software for slicing. I think it's pretty straightforward, unless we need to do something more specialized, or well, I'll say more than specialized, different. I use PrusaSlicer, SuperSlicer for some other projects. Um, I love PrusaSlicer, SuperSlicer. I'll say they are even. I like them more than Simplify, but I try to be honest with myself, and like, use the software where I feel like it's gonna be just easier to use at the time. But I definitely love to use also the PrusaSlicer, SuperSlicer for the other printers.
okay. And SuperSlicer, I'm not really familiar with that. I think. Why do you like it? Why do you like that one? Because it's a bit of a new one for me, at least.
Well, I think I think it doesn't need to go to SuperSlicer. Most of the times, I stay on PrusaSlicer, which they are super similar. Like, everything is so alike. SuperSlicer will give you just couple more settings or controls than PrusaSlicer, but I, I'll say it's very hard to really get to those very specific ones. But I did couple of my settings from some printers on PrusaSlicer, so I just use it. But I never really touch much those, like, very specific settings. Um, Maybe every now and then, but not really. So I say they are, like, pretty much the same, honestly. At least in this field, we don't use those specialized different settings from SuperSlicer.
Okay. Yeah, because Simplify was like really weird because I remember I was doing a competitive analysis on them like in the beginning, and it was like, yeah, it's like Cura, but you pay for it. And I guess the interface is a bit more better for if you're a cam person, And then at one point they started adding features, and it did become quite powerful. And like, being dialing your support, kind of, putting your support at particular areas was a really nice feature. But then they kind of like stopped adding it. They stopped improving it for like a really long time. It was like, what are you doing? Are you hibernating or something? Do you still recognize, like, would you still recommend like Simplify? Or are you like, well, we have it, so we use it, it's fine? Or
So I feel at least Simplify, I like it a lot to split processes. I feel like it makes it so easy to split process. So I love to do vase mode, like the conical shape,
of course, see, the
the
professional,
conical,
professional, Brent.
and like vase mode.
MeshMixer
Yours,
and vase mode.
the peanut gallery.
It's all about at least those two, man.
Vase mode works perfect there. And but what I like to do is go vase mode till my trim lines start. So I print my bottom layers with the pin lock holes and all that. But then I turn into vase mode, and then whenever I get to my first trim line, I turn the layer by layer. I turn off the vase mode, and I print the the trim lines already there. So sometimes we go all the way vase mode, and we just trim it by hand and grind it down, buff it down. But when you combine or split process, you can save like around 1/4 of the material and 1/4 of the time, pretty much printing, because that wall that it's going to be trimmed takes, like if it's an AK, for example, takes a long time to print, because it goes to the same speed as the other walls of the entire socket, and it's a huge uh, bunch of material that you're gonna cut. So for AKs is like having those um, small or fast detours without printing material. It just makes it so much faster, and you save a lot of material as well.
Okay, and how about materials? You mentioned a couple. Like, what kind of materials you guys use?
So on 3D printing, we use mainly PTG all the time. We use CPX or this Copoly, Carbon Max, which is pretty much CPX with some carbon fiber reinforced. But we also use TPU for. So we also do a lot of TPU definitives, like 3D printed flexible inners with 3D print, and then we go traditional and we laminate over that. But it saves you the whole modification on plaster because we modify everything on CAD, and you have a flexible inner with the same thickness pretty much all over the surface instead of thermoforming traditionally, which it's also good, but it's you can control the thickness all the way. So we do a lot of that. So we print a lot of TPU for those. We also print every now and then Virus Shore. We just finished one cool project that Brent was involved there, designing high foot, shoe, high heel foot. Sorry, for a Symes prosthesis, and we did the Virus Shore shell of that foot. And I mean, we've printed also some inner sockets with Virus Shore, so we also do Virus Shore every now and then. And I guess that's pretty much it. Like sometimes we have used, polycarbonate, um, but it's not something that we use with, every single day. Even PLA or any other like, you know, materials, but that's not on our daily basis stuff.
Yeah, so if we look at this Varia shore, right, where you can change the shore hardness by changing the temperature, just for people listening, so you can get a different kind of thing, and also TPU, where you can do something similar, but then you'd have to design structures that change the shore and how it responds. Are you very excited about these inners and making these inner type touching the person surfaces more advanced through these flexible materials? because there's a lot you could do there, right, to really change the way they feel and change the way they operate in connection with the leg or the arm or whatever.
Definitely. I love like that. I love BioSure. I love the way you can control the properties of it depending on your printing settings. With the TPU and also BioSure, if you really want to create some air pockets or anything like that, we cannot go high flow or like vase mode, and so that's pretty much one of the limitations of high flow. You pretty much are printing the same hardness on the whole socket. On that regard, you'll need to use like traditional small layers and multiple perimeters and infill, so you can control a little bit more of that, which we do it too. But again, it's not on the daily basis. It's more like very specific patients that will need that need that. But we also print very short base mode, so it's pretty much sealed, or the whole layers or the whole print is the same thickness. And if you have your settings right and your temperatures like around 230 degrees or 240, depending on I think it depends on where you are and like the environment you're printing to. But all that you can control, and it's a lot more cushioning than a regular 98A short hardness TPU. But I mean, depending on the patient, well, or the practitioner request, we make our decision there. But normally, for just a inner socket, we do vase mode, or we try to go vase mode. Or also when it's like overhanging a lot, vase mode, you know, won't help much. So on that, we also do regular printing mode with supports every now and then. But we're really focusing on providing care or these devices to a lot of uh, practitioners that we go high flow to speed up things, and all the daily basis work is it doesn't really require to control like or to have air pockets or soft areas. With that, they pretty much can do like cutouts on the rigid shelf, so that will give it a little bit of more like room um to make it softer in, like, I don't know, fibula head or the tibia or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I think no, maybe people don't understand, like the high flow as opposed to just having regular material extrusion FDM printers. It's a huge difference. We're talking like print something in an hour that would take 8 or 3 or 4 or something. It's a really, really dramatic difference from a as a business perspective, or also just getting something done within the shift perspective, or getting it to your customer within that day or within that time frame. It's a big, big difference, right?
It is huge. Like a regular size BK will take uh less than an hour on PTG, maybe 2 hours on flexible. And the same size socket on a layer by layer will take, I don't know, 9, 10, 12,
Huge,
24.
huge. Yeah.
A lot of hours depending on what they request, or the size of it.
So Joris, another cool fun fact about Diego is he went to Guatemala with me.
That's super cool, dude. That's super cool. Did Brent teach you lots of Spanish to get there and like interact with everyone?
Yeah, he surprised me. I thought he didn't speak Spanish, but
I don't know. We've never spoken.
He does
Spanish,
well.
Really, like with Brent. We could have done this whole podcast in Spanish, apart from me, I think, kind of. But Brent's a little bit further than Yoma Yama, right?
I'll be cool if you want to turn into Spanish. I feel that I'm going to be a lot more fluent.
We've got the key words, right? Baño and una cerveza cada mano. Right?
You speak way better than that, Brent. Don't lie to us. Yeah, Guatemala was a highlight, definitely.
Yeah. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been there, like before in Guatemala or that kind of area, or not?
Chiapas, Mexico. Maybe that's the closest.
Okay.
And I crossed the border walking just on like visiting there, but it was just like visiting a little market that is right on the border. That's it. That's the further south I went. But this time I went a little southern with Brent and the team, the Life Enable team, and it was awesome. I mean, I haven't.
So what did you?
Sorry.
Well, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, that I haven't been like into the clinical side much. So that was one of the very first approach to it, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm still managing, or like seeing the way I can manage or make my clinical side as well. At some point, I wanted to study the masters. At this time, I don't, like how crazy the school is here in the United States, and the United States is the only place that they accept people that doesn't have a prosthetic or orthotic degree. Um, into prosthetics and orthotic masters, so you can become a clinician there. So I'm still managing that, but Guatemala was a great example of that. I really want to be involved with some of the clinical side as well at some point.
Okay, cool. And what was it like being kind of, you're not in your lab, you're not with a whole bunch of people around you. You're in a kind of, it's more improvised, right? Like as an environment. What was that like?
Oh, that was crazy. I was getting ready to laminate and I knew it was gonna be a lot more traditional than 3D printing and such, which I don't mind. I also have good skills on the traditional side, but I was not expecting just plastic. And I don't know, it was probably like um dumb of me not expecting that, because in Mexico it's like that as well. Like there's companies doing final laminations and such, but most of the people can only afford like polypropylene sockets and basic componentries and such. And in Guatemala is the same. And I don't know, I was never involved in anything like that, so also I really enjoyed to see that and how things are in you know countries like mine and Guatemala. So I enjoyed to have that exposure too. But as I say, I wasn't really expecting that, and like there's not much time to check sockets. So pretty much it fits or it fits at the first one. And that's something that I was amazed with Brent's. And I think Brent have also mentioned Audrey and Sophie, and the whole team there. They were awesome. They were making the devices fit somehow, and just learning that part, it was amazing. And being involved of pushing out the devices as soon as possible, because time is limited there, and resources too. I mean, I think it was like one of the best experience in the OMP, in my young OMP career so far. So it was so great.
Yeah. Well, and Diego's pretty humble about. So we did some 3D printing projects. He actually did a arm for a little girl it was pretty awesome. So it allowed her to do a like hold a pencil. It had kind of this. It was all built out of TPU, so it had this like split finger type of thing that she could jam stuff in if she wanted to, like papers or tools or whatever. So that was one of the cool projects. And then we also had another one where a family donated an electric bike to a kid that has cerebral palsy, no, spina bifida. And so it allows him to get around. It's a three-wheeled, I say bike, it's a tricycle, three-wheel tricycle, but battery powered. And but one of the things was it was hard for him to keep his feet on the pedals. And so Diego whipped up some pedal platforms that we actually attached to the pedals. So those were some pretty cool projects. We had a bamboo A1 down there, and I mean, it really performed well. So there's just a lot of room for 3D printing in those kind of specialized things where you wouldn't be able to traditionally fabricate that stuff and it be very good.
That's cool. And Diego, what do you think? I mean, I think we're always talking about like ways of helping and stuff and what actually works and stuff. And did you get any insight about like what would actually allow you to let's say, offer kind of a life enabled type service to more people? Is it more printers, more people? What would you guys need to do this, more often and make this much bigger?
The way they do things have a lot of sense. They don't want to go to parts of Guatemala where other prosthetists are there, like, and taking business out of there. But still, there's people that can't really or that doesn't live like very close to where Petén, is it San Benito Petén? But they still go and travel to like there because they need the care, and there's still nobody over there like that can provide that care, and obviously most of the people won't afford it. So I guess 3D printing will definitely be a great aid. So I mean, people like Brand can design from here and not actually need it to be there all the time, and somebody can just feed the patient, probably having also the clinician on the video call or something. And then whenever it's to go definitive, they can do probably a thermo uh, just like the thermoforming plastics that they do for definitives there, that they might be a little more stronger, unless you take a bigger or a more specialized printer there that can print more stronger materials in general. That will be even more helpful, because you can go from uh all the way to definitive from the 3D printer, and then this technician or someone. I mean, Brand also have some people there that. I mean, I was also amazed how much knowledge they had on on the prosthetic side. Forgot his name, Marlon, right? Yeah, like he lives close by, but he's been with Brand for some years or many years already. And even though he's not like uh, a clinician or anything like that, he knows the basics. And if someone can just help him, live online, doing some extra tweaking, I feel like there's not a need to be there, especially if it's like follow up meetings and such. But the way they do things, and they m- do all the meetings on the single week, you can really see a lot of patient on that week, and I feel like that's also important. Having the clinician going at least every now and then, but 3D printing will definitely help to see a lot more patients, um, in the regular basis, not just once or twice a year.
Oh, that's very cool, Diego. And then, yeah, I'm happy about you that you're so enthusiastic about the digital side of things and stuff like that. I mean, I think, um, if you look to the future, do you think you're going to be looking, this MGF and sintering, powder bed fusion stuff? Are you're going to explore that, or are you really into like more and more FDM and faster, better FDM or material extrusion type of technology?
I I'll definitely will be down to try MJF and all that. I feel like the things that you can accomplish, like especially like for example the TPUs, inner sockets, all the lattices designs, and I don't know, all that is very cool. And I've seen it from Brand. I've seen it for many other practitioners. I mean, the outcomes are great, and I look forward to that at some point. Obviously, it's not as easy just to jump to MJF, uh, from one day to another. But definitely something um, that I am personally down to try. And I'll be amazed, um to be able to. I feel like, um a lot of the limitations that FDM have are not longer limitations there. So definitely it's not just that I'm thinking MJF, oh, FDM, sorry, which, it has a lot of advantages as well. So probably choosing, like having, your catalog and being able to decide on which one to use on the specific circumstances will will be the most beneficial part, not just going, all the way to MGF or, FDM. I feel like having those, or even sometimes resin printing, for like very cosmetic, like upper limb extremity, or like fingers and such, can also be very beneficial. So I feel like just 3D printing in general and all these technologies have something to give for the for the field. And if you are capable and knowledgeable enough to know which one to use on the specific circumstances, will be the best.
So, Diego, we have a lot of listeners that they listen, and they think what the 3D printing stuff is cool, but then they go back to the lab, they get busy, and life goes on, right? It's like you want to start, but you don't know how to start. Can you give our listeners just some basics on, hey, this is a great place to start, whether it's a resource, whether it's like the scanning iPod scanning or whatever it is. How do you get going, and then kind of map out a journey maybe that at least gets people moving in the right direction, where it doesn't tie up a whole bunch of time.
Okay. Yeah. I'll say, getting connected with uh, people doing it, and don't be afraid to get your first cheap 3D printer. I mean, you don't really need to think of buying the, super cool high flow printer at that stage. So just buy one little printer, if possible, a direct extruder, so you can print um, multiple. So that's something I will change. Instead of buying like the Ender 3, a Bowden system, I will definitely go directly to a cheap direct one. So I definitely will encourage them to buy a cheap one with a direct extruder, printer. Start, tweaking the slicer. Like there are like a lot of information on the internet where you can start, with profiles. And it doesn't matter if your print is going to take a couple days to finish. Then you'll get to, starting, changing like nozzles and stuff like that, just to make your prints faster. I definitely will encourage that. But at the same time, you obviously, and probably even more important, um, you know starting with your designing skills. I mean, I think this will be like the 50th time that somebody says this in this podcast, but start with MeshMixer. MeshMixer is great. Uh, Scan your own leg or whatever. There's free, maybe not as specialized or accurate, scanners for the iPhone, like, Scandy Pro. And all this, honestly, is not my idea. Also, go and follow Lehman Lattice, and Derek. He's great on YouTube. He was huge part of my starting journey. So also, shout out to him and Lehman Lattice. So also go there and start with some designing with, you know Fusion. Oh, sorry, Mesh Mixer. And if you want to start doing some parametrical as well, I'll say Fusion. Fusion is great for starting. Again, I've heard many times in this podcast, and but I back up that Fusion is also great for parametrical, and also it has good tools for some lattice and some, like surfaces. I did my PC socket on SolidWorks, and
Brutal.
it was a pain, and like the thickness came out very bad. I don't know, like skip the SolidWorks part, and if you're gonna just go to the and it's expensive, but as a student, you have also some free license opportunities there. But I mean, also Fusion. So I'll say go for Fusion. It has very good advantages for this field specifically.
All right, that's some sage advice there, Diego. Hey, Diego, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your experience with us today.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
And Brent, thank you for being here as well. I know you enjoyed this.
Oh, this was great. Yeah, and if you're not following Diego on LinkedIn, you need to be. He does some really cool stuff.
Appreciate it. Well, you as well.
And yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast. This is another episode of the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast. Have a great day.
Hey, and that wraps up another episode of the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast. A big thank you to Diego Suarez for sharing his expertise and insights today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on future episodes. And a special thank you to our sponsors, CombScan and Advanced 3D. And thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next time on the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast.